More on the historic meeting between Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un, we cross to our correspondent in Seoul, South Korea, Oliver Whitfield-Miocic. Thanks very much for joining us, Oliver. South Korea is extremely vested in what happens with the North Korea situation. So what's been the response on the ground to the meeting today?
Well, people that I've been speaking to today say that they've been rather excited about everything that's been going on in Singapore. We heard Moon Jae-in earlier on in the day saying that he'd had very poor sleep because his attention had all been focused in Singapore. We've also heard from the TV ratings agency here in South Korea, which says that 31% of the nation tuned in, as most of the programming on normal television was replaced with wall-to-wall coverage of the events taking place on Sentosa Island. Well, in the last 2 hours, we've heard an update from Moon Jae-in, who has congratulated the leaders of North Korea and the US and has really sung their praises in their efforts to bring about a new era of peace and denuclearization. He also said that this could be marked down as history. The Sentosa Agreement could be marked down as history, as something that will be seen as ending one of the last legacies of the Cold War era. But there are big questions that still remain, especially for a lot of conservatives here, after Donald Trump said that his nation might be pulling out of joint military exercises with South Korea.
Oliver, what about the two leaders being equal parties? Is there a sense that North Korea was an equal partner with the US today?
It really depends on who you ask. A lot of the analysts say that Donald Trump has given away quite a lot of concessions and North Korea has come out on top because it went into these negotiations knowing the 4 things that it wanted. And if you look at the 4 points on the agreement that Donald Trump signed, it's pretty much verbatim exactly what Kim Jong-un had demanded. So we've seen that Donald Trump is now going to pull the US out of joint military drills with South Korea. Now that is something which has angered North Korea great amounts, so much so that it pulled out of high-level talks with South Korean counterparts in the demilitarized zone and wouldn't come back to the negotiating table until those drills had been completed. Other analysts are saying that Donald Trump has done this in a very smart way. He knows that in order to win the trust of the North Koreans, he's had to do a move like this, and it's something which could always be brought back onto the table, and those joint military exercises could be brought back. But it has very many analysts and experts concerned that the US has given far too much away, and we haven't really seen anything new, despite the fact that Donald Trump markets himself as the ultimate deal maker, and that this was a really comprehensive piece of paper that both leaders had signed.
Oliver, I suppose, I mean, we're in a global village, we would pretty much consume information roughly at the same time, but we really haven't heard anything about the details of what was in that document. Have you heard anything? And if the US is deciding to withdraw its military in those joint exercises, isn't that rather premature given the fact that it's going to take quite some time before the process of denuclearization actually takes place?
Well, on the second part of your question, it might be a little bit premature. It will be certainly very premature for conservative voters here because they see those joint military exercises as absolutely necessary for South Korea's preparedness in the event that North Korea should launch an attack. They would probably want to see North Korea make some more concessions first before that happened. Now, as for what is contained in the agreement, it says that the US and North Korea will try to normalize their relations. That was the first point. The second point being that the US and North Korea were committed to denuclearization on the Korean Peninsula. Well, that was something that Moon Jae-in and Kim Jong-un had already agreed at the Inter-Korean summit here in April. So it sounds a bit like an echo that we'd heard a month and a half ago coming from those two leaders on Sentosa Island. There was also the final point of the agreement was that the North Korean leadership would agree to repatriate the bodies of soldiers who had died as well as prisoners of war within North Korea back to the US. That's really the only new thing that we've learned out of this whole agreement, and that is going to be something seen as quite pleasing to many of Donald Trump's core supporters. It'll be something that he can claim as a real big victory, and it looks very good on TV. But for people who live in the region, that really doesn't affect anything that they do here in South Korea.
All right, Oliver. Well, thank you very much for your time and your insights there. That was Oliver Whitfield-Miocic reporting from Seoul in South Korea.